Good morning. We're trying some new technology here for this webinar. And Deborah, I just unmuted you. Can you hear me, Deborah? Deborah Smith? What about Kimberly Hobbs? Can you hear me?
Okay, she can hear you.
She is?
Yes, everyone can hear you now. You're all good. She said yes on there.
Oh, okay.
There's no mic, she said.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we're good to go. So this morning we're going to be conducting part of our consolidated plan outreach, and I have Bithia here. She's going to be conducting the first part of that, and then we have some questions, and also we're also going to be talking about some changes to the bonus points for this round. And so we also have a survey email that's supposed to go out after this is completed, and you may actually receive it right after this. We do have a question box, so if you have a question, if you want to type that in, I have everybody muted right now just to make it a little bit easier to conduct this. But if you need to have a question or raise your hand or whatever, you can try to reach out to us. But at this point, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn the first part of the program over to Bithia to talk about our consolidated plan outreach.
Well, hi, everybody. My name is Bithia Retnasamy. I'm a housing policy specialist at DCA working on the housing group. Just wanted to give a brief overview of what the consolidated plan is so you can understand why we have some questions and why it's so important that we hear back from you. So just real quickly, the consolidated plan is a policy document that we are required to submit to HUD every 5 years. So this upcoming plan will cover the years 2018 to 2022. And what it does is help entities, so the state, as well as several jurisdictions within the state submit these. And they help states assess their affordable housing and community development needs, as well as do a market analysis and really look at the different conditions that states or local jurisdictions are facing. And using this information, then it helps government entities make data-driven and place-based investment decisions. So really thinking through where our resources should go based off of that information that we analyze. So I said the consolidated plan is every 5 years, but every year we create an annual action plan, and that is submitted to HUD, and then we report at the end of the year through a consolidated annual performance and evaluation report, or a CAPR. So this plan covers 4 different areas: affordable housing, homelessness, non-homeless special needs housing, and community development. And so today we'll be focusing in on community development since that's y'all's areas of expertise. And so those 4 areas cover 5 of our HUD formula-based programs. The National Housing Trust Fund being our newest, the Home Investment Partnership Program, CDBG, the Emergency Solutions Grant, and Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS. So those first 2 are more housing focused. The third, as you know, is community development and housing. And then the 4th and 5th are our homelessness and special needs housing programs. So I'll turn it back over to Brent to get into the rest of the presentation.
So many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with our Community Development Block Grant Program. It is our most flexible grant. We use it for housing, do a lot of infrastructure, public facilities, some economic development, and through set-asides, redevelopment, and more immediate threat and danger type projects. And the funds are distributed to local governments. We do not make any grants to individuals. They go to cities and counties in the rural, mainly the rural parts of the state. So as part of the planning process, we are conducting outreach, and then we will develop strategic plan. And again, as Bithia mentioned, our annual action plan. We'll publish a draft for public review. And Bithia, do you have a timeline on when we will have that available?
So we're going to finish outreach at the end of January. So we'll have a draft plan out, I believe, in February or March.
February or March?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll incorporate feedback, and which is what we're looking for today. And then we'll put all that in together for our submission and implementation of our final draft. So our method of distribution, we talked a lot about this over the last 12 months when we changed the grant amounts. But this is how we explain how we're going to distribute the funds that we receive from HUD. So this is our formal description of the rating and selection criteria. And we continuously evaluate how we put together our method of distribution to make the program more effective. So again, we had not changed it significantly for about the past 20 years until last year. And so last year we made a few changes, increasing the grant amounts. We increased the administrative fees to go along with that. We set up new cash match requirements, again, to reflect the increased grant amounts. And then we provided bonus points for the closing of revolving loan funds. So currently, this is the way that our bonus points are awarded. A maximum of 5 bonus points are available. 1 point for contracting professional services, administration, architectural or engineering. 1 point for completion of the environmental review. 1 point for having all acquisition being completed or not needed in many applications. 1 point for completing design, and then another point for being ready to go to bid. And this is what our current method of distribution looks like. A maximum of 505 points. That increased from 500 to 505 when we added the closing of the RLF accounts. So at this point, I'm going to see if we have, these are some of the questions we're looking for input. So what changes, if any, would you recommend regarding the current scoring criteria? And this may be looking at the weighting of the scoring, or are there any other criteria that you think that we should be considering when scoring the applications? You can type questions here. Again, you'll receive an email with these very same questions, and so you'll be welcome to respond. And I'm going to try to unmute just quickly and see if we have any comments. I don't know if anybody has mics hooked up. Any response at this point? All right, we'll move on to the and Joni had talked about this at our fall conference back in October. One of the things that we're judged on by HUD is our expenditure of funds. And right now we are not expending funds as rapidly as HUD would like to see. And so we're looking at ways to increase the expenditure rate in our state as HUD's looking at this across all of the states. So are there, and we're asking for your input here, are there any changes to the process you would suggest to increase the rate of expenditure? And this is basically getting money drawn and getting it spent. I see Deborah does not have a microphone, and I believe Kimberly does not. But you're welcome to type questions here. And again, you're welcome to wait until we get that email out as well. And this is a little broader, but we do seek to impact the day-to-day lives of Georgians. And so we're asking if there's any ways that you believe CDBG funds could be more impactful to the residents of the programs we serve. So we're serving low and moderate income Georgians, mainly in rural Georgia. And so if there are any ways that you believe that CDBG funds can be more impactful, we would love to hear your ideas. Seeing none at this point. Okay, so this is the proposed changes we're looking for the bonus points. And at this point, I would say these are going to happen for the next round. We'll be discussing these in much greater detail at the applicants workshop next week. The main reason here, we're looking at awarding points that will get these projects started much quicker than we have traditionally seen. So we're increasing total points from 5 to 25. You can see the breakdown here. We're doubling procurement, tripling environmental, and there's some of these, there's different stages on the way that you'll earn them, and we'll get into that very shortly. The big change is in design completion. In talking to engineers and architects, this seems to be a part of the process that if it were done sooner, before grant award, that this would get the projects out of the gates much faster. We're also looking at increasing the value of acquisition. There are many projects, many applications that do not require acquisition, and they earn 1 bonus point for that. That 1 point's not going to change, but if they have steps that they need to complete the acquisition process, they can earn up to 5. And then the ready to bid, having the project ready to go to bid packages prepared, all the steps completed, can earn an additional 5 for a maximum of 25. So on procurement, there's not a lot of change except awarding 2 points there maximum versus 1. But basically it's really simple. 1 point for procuring grant administrator and 1 for the architect or engineer. The environmental, there's 3 points maximum. 1 point for completing the tribal consultation process. Another for receiving back the SHPO response letter. And then another point if we have full release of funds. For the design completion on public facilities infrastructure, there's 10 points maximum. The plans must be completed and must be submitted to all appropriate agencies. This could either be for permits or approval. Housing is a little different. We again have 10 points, 1 point for having the rehab contractor under contract, 5 points for completing title searches on all properties. This would be done by the city or county attorney, and then 4 points for completing work write-ups on all the units. Acquisition, again, 5 points maximum. As I mentioned earlier, 1 point if no acquisition needed. 3 points total if all acquisition needs identified and title searches are completed. And then 5 points for completing acquisition packages, including easement plats and valuations. So this would have them ready to go to the property owners. Contract documents ready to begin, 5 points maximum. For infrastructure, the community would have to have received all plan and permit approvals, and then the bid packages would be ready for distribution. For housing applications, they would need to complete income verifications for all of the participants. This is really everything we have at this point. If you have questions regarding this topic, you can submit them to this CDBG Biz email address. If you would put Complan webinar questions in the subject line, we'll get back to you and reply, and we'll also be able to address these at the workshop. So does anyone have any questions, comments at this point? I don't see any, so we're going to end this webinar at this time. And again, you're welcome to reach out to us. Most of you have my phone number, 404-217-0733. And we look forward to hearing from you and seeing you next week.